Why the U.S. $7.5 billion EV charging program is falling short. Imagine a future where electric vehicles dominate the roads, but the infrastructure to support them is severely lacking. This is the stark reality in the United States, where less than 400 electric vehicle charging ports have been built under the $7.5 billion federal infrastructure program. As of April 2025, only 384 charging ports are operational at 68 stations across 16 states, according to the Government Accountability Office. But here's where it gets controversial. The Joint Office overseeing the program has not defined performance goals with measurable targets and time frames for its activities, raising questions about the effectiveness of the program. The lack of progress is even more surprising given the fact that the federal government has allocated billions of dollars for the development of EV charging infrastructure. In fact, the U.S. Transportation Department has been sued by 16 states, including California, for allegedly withholding at least $3 billion in funds awarded for building EV charging stations under a 2021 infrastructure law. The situation has sparked a heated debate, with some critics arguing that the federal government is not doing enough to support the adoption of electric vehicles. For instance, in June 2024, a Democratic senator criticized the previous Biden administration for deploying only 7 EV charging stations with a few dozen ports, calling it pathetic. The senator's comments highlight the frustration felt by many who believe that the government is not taking sufficient action to address the pressing issue of climate change. And this is the part most people miss. The Trump administration has taken several steps to discourage EV sales, including signing legislation that will end the $7,500 EV tax credit and $4,000 used EV tax credit on September 30th. The administration has also revoked a 2021 executive order signed by Biden that aimed to ensure half of all new vehicles sold in the United States by 2030 were electric. Furthermore, the General Services Administration has told federal agencies to disconnect and turn off existing charging stations for government-owned EVs that are deemed not to be mission-critical. The GSA has also canceled 32 electric vehicle charging projects worth over $23 million. The controversy surrounding the EV charging program raises important questions about the government's commitment to reducing carbon emissions and promoting sustainable transportation. As the nation grapples with the challenges of climate change, it is essential to have a robust and reliable EV charging infrastructure in place. But what do you think? Is the federal government doing enough to support the adoption of electric vehicles, or are they falling short? Should the government prioritize the development of EV charging infrastructure, or are there other pressing issues that need to be addressed? Share your thoughts in the comments below. GAO report reveals challenges in U.S. electric vehicle charging infrastructure expansion. The surge in electric vehicles, EVs, on U.S. roads is undeniable, but a looming challenge could slow this green revolution: a scarcity of charging stations across the nation. Recognizing this bottleneck, the federal government has stepped in with initiatives aimed at bolstering the EV charging infrastructure. For instance, the creation of a joint office between the Departments of Energy, DOE, and Transportation, DOT, marks a concerted effort to streamline collaboration and funnel federal funds to state and private entities building out these vital networks. However, a recent report by the Government Accountability Office, GAO, highlights a critical gap: the absence of clear, measurable goals to track the progress of these efforts. The GAO's findings underscore several key points. Firstly, while the number of EVs has seen significant growth, the limited charging infrastructure remains a major hurdle to wider EV adoption, as noted by the Congressional Research Service. Secondly, despite extensive collaboration between DOE, DOT, and the Joint Office, there's a need for more defined performance metrics to assess the impact of their initiatives. The report suggests that without these benchmarks, it's challenging to understand the true effectiveness of federal investments in EV charging infrastructure. Interestingly, the GAO report also reveals mixed feedback from stakeholders about the Joint Office's efforts. While most, 16 out of 23, found the office's support helpful, there's a clear consensus that more could be done to define and measure success. Implementing a robust performance management framework could provide the necessary clarity and direction to optimize ongoing and future initiatives. Two key federal programs, the National Electric Vehicle Infrastructure Formula Program, NEVI, and the Charging and Fueling Infrastructure Discretionary Grant Program, CFI, are at the forefront of funding public EV charging stations. As of April 2025, these programs have funded over 384 chargers accessible to the public. Yet, the GAO points out that while FHWA, which administers these programs, has identified some long-term outcomes and collected performance data, there's a lack of comprehensive performance goals, especially for NEVI's aim to improve charger accessibility. This gap in performance measurement is not just an administrative oversight. It has real implications for the public and Congress. Without clear, defined goals and metrics, it's difficult to assess the return on investment for federal funds allocated to EV charging infrastructure. As the federal government continues to review and adjust its strategies under the Infrastructure Investment and Jobs Act, IIJA, and other initiatives, the GAO's recommendations offer a timely reminder of the importance of setting and tracking meaningful performance goals. In conclusion, the GAO's report sheds light on a critical area for improvement in the U.S.'s push towards electric vehicle adoption: the need for clearer metrics and performance goals in the expansion of EV charging infrastructure. By addressing this gap, federal agencies can better ensure that their efforts are not only effective but also transparent, thereby fostering greater public and congressional confidence in the investment of federal funds towards a sustainable transportation future. Biden's $7.5 billion EV plan under fire. Only 384 charging ports built in 3 years. Don't miss this explosive insight. The Biden administration's $7.5 billion plan to roll out electric vehicle charging stations has fallen dramatically short of its ambitious targets. According to a recent report by the Government Accountability Office, fewer than 400 charging ports have been installed over the past 3 years. This critical initiative, established under former President Joe Biden's bipartisan infrastructure law, has so far resulted in the construction of just 384 charging ports situated across 68 stations in 16 states as of April 2025, a number that constitutes less than 0.2% of the approximately 219,000 public charging ports now available nationwide. The GAO's report highlighted a major concern. The program lacks well-defined performance goals, measurable targets, and explicit timelines, which could significantly slow down the wider adoption of electric vehicles due to insufficient charging infrastructure. This shortfall raises a provocative question. Are we heading toward an energy and transportation gridlocked in inefficiency? Under the guidance of Biden and former Transportation Secretary Pete Buttigieg, the original plan aimed to establish 500,000 charging stations by 2030. However, the current outcomes have led to widespread criticism, transcending party lines. In fact, even Democrats have expressed their dissatisfaction. For instance, Senator Jeff Merkley, D. Oregon, castigated the program last June, labeling the deployment of just 7 operational charging stations at that point as pathetic, and warned that the situation represented a colossal administrative failure that urgently needed correction. In a twist that adds to the controversy, policies related to the electric vehicle charging initiative have been a battleground of political conflict. After President Donald Trump returned to office, his administration reversed several of the Biden-era electric vehicle policies through executive orders, including those supporting the construction of charging stations. This reversal spurred a lawsuit from several states with Democratic leanings, and in June, a federal judge mandated that the Trump administration reinstate the electric vehicle funding for most of the suing states. But here's where it gets controversial. Do we view these reversals as necessary corrections to overly ambitious plans, or as politically motivated moves that undermine the progress toward a greener future? Share your thoughts and join the conversation. What is your take on this contentious issue? Every comment could spark a fresh perspective on the road to sustainable transportation.